My name is Ken Bassam. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer over here at InQ ZebraWorks, and I am joined today by David Shaffey, who's our Director of Sales. And the purpose of today is just to give a kind of a high-level preview of some of the stuff that we've been seeing in the market, that we've been working with our clients and other firms with, as well as a preview of what we're going to show at ILTA. I know a number of people who have that signed up aren't going to ILTA. So if you're going to ILTA, great, we'll do a deeper dive there. If you're not able to make it, then we can always jump online and do something that's more tailored specifically around your firm and your firm's needs. But that being said, welcome, Dave.
Thanks, Ken. Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning, depending on where you are. And Ken and I are excited here to show you some of the previews of what we're doing with digitizing mail and digitizing records. Again, it's just a quick preview of what we're going to be showing at ILTACON. So everybody that attends ILTACON, please stop by and see us. And people who do not attend, again, feel free to reach out. We love talking about the excitement that we're creating in the legal marketplace with digitization of different products out there. Without saying much more, I'm going to jump in. I know everybody's time is critical here. Ken, any comments to add on that?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think what I wanted to do today, you've got a long history in the market of helping firms digitize, or what sometimes people call back scanning, right? Or just getting rid of boxes. And I just wanted you to speak a little bit about, what have firms' hesitation to do that been in the past? And then over the last maybe 12 to 18 months, have you seen a shift in the market that there's a more willingness, and why do you think that might be?
Absolutely. So thanks for that. And yeah, I've been in the industry for 30 years and legal for 30 years, like yourself, Ken, and spent a lot of time working with law firms and digitizing paper. And what we're seeing is a trend, especially after COVID, in the marketplace, and not only in legal, but everywhere, that there's consolidation and a lot of remote work out there. And so with my experience with some of the largest firms in the US and world, we're seeing office spaces shrink, floors decline. And it's not because the firms are shrinking, it's just they're becoming more smart about working. And so we see a lot of attorneys are in remote, they're in court quite a bit, they're with clients quite a bit, so they do a lot of remote work. We also see attorneys needing to get records and those things that are currently typically today set in storage that are just not accessible remotely. It's just a very hard lift for a firm to recall paper from a records provider, for example, and then get it out remotely to an attorney, and vice versa. So we see that consolidation because of there's not enough not enough room to store those records in the offices anymore. Offsite storage is very cost prohibitive, and we've seen this from a lot of different firms have asked us, how can we consolidate that cost? We're spending, we're sending hundreds of thousands of boxes offsite. How can we consolidate that? We're spending millions of dollars a year in recall, destruction, and all those type of fees. So how can we stop that bleeding? So we work with some of the leading law firms today in digitizing those documents, and partner with partners that really understand how to make records flow digitally into a law firm environment. And further than that, once we look at records, mail falls under the same category. We have a lot of attorneys out there, like I said, that are very, very much remote, and they don't have access to all their mail. And we've seen contracts are coming in. A lot of those things come in, they don't have access to it right away. So we need a way to streamline that and get mail to attorneys, to assistants, to paralegals quickly and efficiently, Ken. So looking at it, we've seen that trend, like Ken mentioned to me, in 2019 to now, that's really accelerating. So we're happy and excited to be here to help and show you some of our solutions. Ken, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I know in our conversations and just a few of the projects that we've done, occasionally you'll get the firm that just says, we're going to do it all, right? Like we've got millions of documents. We're going to just hire a team. We're going to scan them all. We're going to put them in our DMS or whichever. What we're seeing sometimes, and maybe you can elaborate just a little bit, is when a box is called up, right, from offsite storage or something like that, then they're just digitizing that one box at that one time. and they're doing it in kind of a digestible chunks versus making it a monster project that kind of takes over the whole firm. That's true so far, yeah?
That is absolutely true. So we have a lot of firms that they have a go forward approach, right? So we don't want to go back and consolidate and backscan, but we want to stop the bleeding moving forward, meaning that anything that comes back, we're going to go ahead and scan that, digitize it, and then destruct that box. And so the key here is let's not send anything forward. And as you mentioned, we do have firms that are just so inclined to digitize everything. They are taking and making the investment to actually recall even past boxes, actually implement destruction policies and follow those destruction policies to the letter of that policy. So we're seeing firms implementing those destruction policies, recalling boxes and not sending boxes back out to offsite storage. We're also seeing firms recalling all boxes, and every firm is a little bit different. We've worked with firms that, like Ken mentioned, do all the master recalling and try to get off of everything out of offsite storage. And then we have firms with a go forward approach. And I would say it's probably about a 30-70 split. So 30% of the firms we work with are actually going back and scanning all records, and 70% are going forward. And we have at ILTA, we'll share a lot of different firms that we do work with, but we've consolidated records in a major Texas law firm here in Dallas. And, they went from a storage of 350,000 to 400,000 cube, which is each box, down to maybe 150 boxes per office. So they really took that and really wanted everything digitized and put into their document management and record management systems, so attorneys had complete and utter access to that. Another benefit calls an attorney, asks for, let's just, for example, say a trust or will, and trust and wills and estates, they have instant access to that trust and will, where some competitors out there would have to recall that trust and will. So different disciplines in law can use this technology in different ways, and a lot of them do use it for competitive advantages.
So what would you say, what's one of the, I think prior to the pandemic, most firms thought they had to have paper documents and they wanted to do it the way that they've always done it. Being out of the office kind of removed that excuse that digital doesn't work, right? So what are some of the biggest hurdles you see when a firm tries to digitize their paper documents, and are there any considerations you need to have when you're getting a tool or trying to implement a tool that you might not think of off the top of your head?
Yeah, and that's a great question, Ken, and thanks for bringing that up. One of the biggest roadblocks that I've seen in transformation from paper to digital is quality control and control of that document. And what I mean by that is, if we look at products from yesteryears and other products out there in the market that are geared more toward corporate and not legal, legal is very unique, and all those documents really have to be checked to make sure the quality is there. The original document has been digitized. It looks exactly like the original document. And then the question becomes, what happens after we digitize that document? Does it get shredded? Does it have to be kept? All those questions are workflow processes that typically are with different departments in the firm. And what I mean that is, maybe a firm has a records department, maybe a firm has IG, compliance, risk management. All those things come into play when we're looking at destroying mail and or records. And a good question on that is, typically in a large law environment, what we see is your copier room folks, print room folks are doing the heavy lifting and doing the scanning, right? Because that is a lot of effort to do that. But they don't understand if that document needs to be put into a record manager, into a document management system. They don't understand if it needs to be destroyed. They just need to get that scan, QC that scan, and then offload it to somebody who knows where that's going. So in a large law firm, we're working with a large firm right now that has a process of everything is scanned by office services. That then goes to records. Then it's determined where that scan is going, whether it goes into their DMS, RMS, or whatnot. And then it goes into risk compliance for destruction. And so that's a 3-part process. And so we work with a lot of firms that have 3, 4, 5, 6 parts, and we work with other firms that do all in one. So the product is very, very flexible. And I think that's the key in the difference with record and MailQ, is because we've really worked with the AmLaw 200, the AmLaw 250, NLJ 500 to understand that workflow process. And Ken, I think you said it best when we talk about digital mail, for example. pushing a mail cart with paper mail down the hall is very hard to replicate digitally because there's so many players involved in that. And so just as a good point that you've brought up in the past, we've really tackled those things with large firms to come to a consensus of making it easy and making it just like pushing that cart through the hall.
Yeah, and I do want to switch gears over to digital mail a little bit. I know we've done spent a lot of time on records, and that's a great segue. And yeah, we have joked about that in the past of like how hard could it be to go write a product that just has to replicate somebody pushing a cart down the hall and putting mail in somebody's office. And what it turns out to be is when you do digitize it, it just opens up the world of possibilities. And law firms are all about pushing the boundaries of possibilities, right? So if
Absolutely.
it's possible or if they might want it, somebody out there is going to ask for it. And so it requires you to be extremely flexible when you're discussing digital mail. It's not as simple as you might think. And I know you want to show off some software in a second. On the
Yep.
digital mail side, any similar findings as far as like the hesitation to do that, or has it been pretty receptive so far? What are you seeing in the market?
Yeah, good question, Ken. It is very receptive. We have a lot of firms trying to digitize mail. I think the key here is how do we do what does that workflow process look like? And the biggest challenge to digitizing mail is that workflow process, right? So typically a mail comes in, it's distributed, it goes to the attorney paralegal. But in a digitized world, how do we know that that person actually read the mail? How do we know that that person received a copy? What do we do with the paper copy of mail? So these are all things that if I'm just dealing with a piece of paper, you hand it off, it's done. Whereas when it's a digitized product, we really have to keep track of that. And so we've worked with the leading firms in New York and Los Angeles, coming up with processes that we can tell when attorneys read mail, for example. Another big thing is, let's say an attorney does get a ton of mail throughout the day. That does happen. They don't want a notification for each piece of mail. I mean, inboxes are precious, and we don't want to fill it up with a bunch of email talking about paper mail. So we have processes for that we've worked with. So we've really kind of turned the corner when we look at from 2019 to 2025 what we've done with the mail routing product. And like Ken said, I'm going to jump in for just a quick demo of the interface that of what we're talking about here shortly. But we've seen a big transformation on the firm side and in our software, and that's really been driven by firms coming back to us and saying, "Hey, this is a great process, but what happens if an attorney is out on vacation and misses that piece of mail, and it's a contract that has to be responded to, or a court correspondence? What happens?" And we've been in those situations, so we've really taken a lot of safeguards to build in so many notification processes to alert many levels of the team who route that mail that a piece of mail may not be read or a piece of mail may be in limbo and it should be looked at. So good questions all around, Ken.
Yeah, and so I think we're going to jump into some software now. There are a lot of tools in the market that talk about how to do this and different things. The way that we address both digital mail and records is through our product called Q's, and that's what Dave will kind of walk us through right now. But it's the workflow engine that really kind of drives all the automation around both records and digital mail. So I will turn it over to you, Dave.
Perfect. And so one of the things that we were talking about, Ken, originally is how do we get documents into digitize the documents. Apologize for that screen that just popped up there. Hold on. How do we get documents to go into a system where we can QC, process them, make sure everything looks good, and then go maybe to the next stopping point to figure out where that document goes. And so as Ken mentioned, we have something called queues. And Q's is the power behind all of this. Let me just maximize this so you guys can have a better view of it. But as I'm scanning, and so let's say I have office services scanning documents coming in, they're QCing those documents. The power of Q's is great. As you can see, we have a lot of Q's on the left-hand side, and these can be dynamically configured. And we can get more into this later on, but I could have maybe a compliance queue, a physical queue, meaning that this goes back into storage, maybe a shred queue. All these things are monitored by different teams. And as I'm doing the scanning, one of the biggest problems that we have in a lot of firms, they can't destroy a document unless they know it's exactly what they're looking for. And that's what the beauty of Q's is. As I'm scanning all these documents, we can have operators looking at each document, making sure they come through just like you see here. You have the capability, if you want to insert a page, delete a page on these documents, you have all that capability right here by looking at the document. So we can go to an edit, we can delete pages, we can add pages. So it makes it very, very easy. If I scan a 600-page document, for example, and I need to scan one more piece into it, I can do that. But at the end of the day, all I have to do is hit route, and that document is going to go to the next place, right? So when I hit route, if I'm a final person, it can go into records. If not, I can go ahead and move it to the next team, as you see here. One of the most powerful things about doing this with queues as well is the history of the document. One of the things when we talk about compliance and IG and legal is if a document is scanned and then routed to the correct place, or a piece of mail, because we're doing both here, we know who touched it, who routed it, who opened it, where it went, and exact timestamps of when it was destroyed. And so all those things can be in the history log, which is very, very important from an IG compliance. Also, we're partnering with a lot of record partners as well. So if you're using product are going to know where these records are. So for example, if they get shredded and they're only digitized, they're going to know that. If it gets into physical delivery, they're also going to know that. So from that dash panel, those just fine as well with our partners out there. When it comes to mail, exactly like I mentioned before, it works the exact same way. I can route that mail to the person. And one of the system is in a mail mode. If we have mail here, we can actually see when it was created, how long it's going to be purged for. We can put tags in here as well if someone's never read it, right? So if I have a problem and somebody's never read it, as you can see down here, we have a green check mark, which means it's been processed, opened, and read. I can see that very quickly. Whereas if it hasn't been and it's something critical, more than one department can see that, right? So once it's routed, it can go into a queue of waiting to be read, so someone can monitor that. And we can also notify the user involved or their paralegal or their assistant that this piece of mail hasn't been read and it may be destroyed soon. What do you want to do with it? So it gives the attorney and the paralegal and the assistants all control of what they want to do with their documents. So again, the key points here is it's not complicated. We don't want to make it complicated. We want to make it very, very easy for attorneys, paralegals to get the documents. And we want to make it very, very easy as a process to scan. So like I said, office services can scan, someone can route. We've made that process very easy by a lot of advanced workflow configuration on the back end that nobody has to worry about. So it just makes it a snap-in product. Once we learn the firm's routes and workflows, we work with that firm to make sure this process is streamlined. Anything to add, Ken?
Well, I'm of course a fan of queues, right? I think it's a great way to do it. It's a great way to bring collaboration to the process. You have a full audit trail, right? So you can always know that you got it to the right place and that somebody what they did with it and what they said about it and all of that. So I love the history and tracking. What do you tell a firm that says, hey, you know what, I'm sold on this as well. Queues looks great. Our attorneys are never going to come into an interface like this. How do they interact with it as far as being aware of the mail that they've received? Can you email that to them, or what does that look like?
Absolutely. And again, we will show this at ILTA. Not going to get into mail, but yeah, what we've done, and this is a great question, like I referenced before, attorneys get a ton of emails in their email box and they just don't want a piece of email for everything that's been processed. So what we've done is we collaborated with some large firms and we set those on schedules. So for example, one firm every day at 9 a.m. and 3 p.m., an attorney will get a piece of email that shows all their mail and shows links to their mail where they can just bring up their mail instantly from the email. It's not in the email, which is amazing because a lot of IT firms don't want to put those images in email, that they belong in DMS or RMS. However, it's right in their email so they can click on it. So it brings up the document directly to them. The beauty of that too is if they want to mark it for delete or shred, they can do it right then and there, right from their phone or from their laptops or desktops or whatever. So good question, Ken. A lot of attorneys don't go into this. They just use email, and we've made it very simple for the attorneys to see that.
Good stuff, Dave. Well, I was monitoring for questions. If there are any questions that anybody has, feel free to use the chat Q&A at the bottom of your screen. Anything else that you want to cover as a part of a preview? I would just say that if if you want to see more of what we've looked at, and we can talk again about specifics and how that relates to your firm and make it a bit more of a custom experience from a demo standpoint, please track us down at ILTA if you happen to be there, or just reach out to us and we will be sure to just meet you online, or if we're in your city, meet you at your firm or whatever works for you. Great job, Dave. I think that's
Thank you.
that's
As
a
well,
good job
Ken.
covering it, and look forward to diving deeper the next time we all get together.
Yeah, thank you, Ken, and thanks everybody for stopping by. We look forward to seeing you at ILTA if you can make it out to National Harbor. If not, as Ken said, feel free to reach out to us, and we love to do demos specific to your firm and your needs. So looking forward to hearing from everybody. But thank you for joining today, and thanks, Ken, for the questions.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dave. Have a great day.
Thank you, guys.